Hello everyone. Today is 4th of November. Now it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon Moscow time. And this is a second news update for a day. And as you probably already know, I'm on right next to TASS News Agency's building. On Tverskaya Boulevard. And dear friends, I just came to this place and I can see, unfortunately, some emergency situation is happening there on a rooftop of that building. Firefighters are working. Unfortunately, fire broke up in that building, and as far as I understand, it's an fire is extinguished for this moment. But yes, winter is coming, and during the winter time, unfortunately, fires are, some emergency situations with fire are increasing. And well, as you can see, number of vehicles here, quite a lot. Firefighters, emergency services, all of them. So hopefully no one was harmed during this incident. And well, relatively early update for today. I don't remember when I last time started second update in middle of the day, but today I wanted to make this update because as you can see, dear friends, winter is here. Snow, which is melting, but on sidelines of the streets, but still, this is I guess first proper snow for this season, and I guess from now on we are in a winter season. Anyways, let's talk about news. And first of all, let me share with you information from TASS News Agency. More firefighters here, as you can see. So first news is from TASS News Agency that Russian armed forces hit oil refineries and airfields of the Kyiv regime during their long-range precise missile strikes and drone strikes last night and early hours today. So the Russian Defense Ministry reported on successful operation of the Russian armed forces against the Ukrainian armed forces. The Russian servicemen hit with these long-range strikes the infrastructure of their enemy military airfields, as well as energy facilities and oil refinery of Ukrainian armed forces. Oil refinery that was providing service to Kyiv regime's forces. And I wanted to share this information as one more confirmation or indicator that recent report of Financial Times that there were some negotiations between Moscow and Kyiv with mediation of Qatar to achieve agreement between the sides, Moscow and Kyiv, not to target energy facilities, was probably false news or something, because on daily basis we are receiving information about attempts of Kyiv regime to strike Russian energy facilities, and Russian armed forces also retaliating and neutralizing military and logistics infrastructure of the Kyiv regime, including energo facilities, and refineries were hit last night, and also airfields, although no precise information for now what airfields and what kind of damage was done to their enemy forces. Also, dear friends, we have reports from Vzglyad newspaper that in the DPR, Ukrainian POWs had the opportunity to meet with their relatives. Russian side quite often allows relatives of the POWs, Ukrainian POWs, to see their family members. And about one of such events, Vzglyad newspaper reported, I saw a video of this meeting of the POWs and their relatives, and it is a good gesture for sure. It is good gesture from Russian side, and you know, also demonstration that Russia is not fighting against citizens of this former Soviet republic, and Russian side understands that significant number of Kyiv regime troops are basically forcefully mobilized and sent to the battlefield. And after all, Russia is acting according to Geneva Conventions. This information may get spread among military personnel of Kyiv regime, and the more they will know that if they have not committed some atrocities, if they didn't commit some terrorist attacks on civilians and so on, they will be treated according to Geneva Convention. That may be additional reasoning to basically lay down arms and surrender and not fight and die for geopolitical agenda of the Western ruling class and this corrupt Kyiv regime. It's quite cold, dear friends. My hands are freezing. I should have with me gloves, but I don't. And next news is from RIA Novosti. The US is preparing Europe for a direct conflict with Russia. This was stated by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov today. So the US is preparing Europe to get involved in a direct military conflict with Russia. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stated, speaking at the international symposium on the name of Creating Their Future, and then quote here, and as a backup option in case the Zelensky regime fails, the US are preparing continental Europe to rush into a suicidal adventure and enter into a direct armored conflict with Russia. He noted. Minister added that Moscow has not refused to engage in a dialogue with the West, but will consider proposals to resume contacts based on its own national interests. According to him, Russia has drawn the necessary conclusions from how its Western neighbors overnight abandoned their communications and obligations, all agreements. So what else does anybody expect from Russian side? So many agreements were broken by Western elites, agreements with Moscow that, as I said in previous updates quite often, I don't think anybody in Moscow will find it possible at this point to trust any initiative or anybody that comes from Western ruling elites. They are not trustworthy. That's about it. And Lavrov, being diplomat, basically said exactly the same, but more diplomatically, that Western ruling elites just cannot be trusted, unfortunately. Although Moscow is open for dialogue, and if one day Western ruling class and their puppet regimes in the collective West will wake up and realize that longer they continue this proxy war against Russia, more damage will be done to strategical interests of the West itself, Western economy, and so on. Then, if Western ruling class will wake up, I guess Moscow would not be against talks, at least talks, because when it comes to agreements, does any agreement with the West has any meaning at this point? I don't know. And I guess no one knows. Just experienced little technical issue with the phone, but I will continue with the news that according to the Hills, U.S. media outlet, in case of victory in upcoming presidential elections, Donald Trump may issue ultimatum for Kyiv and Moscow. In case of Kyiv, Trump and his administration may demand or may push Zelensky and his associates towards negotiations and more flexible position. In case of Russia, they might do exactly the opposite. If Kyiv will be threatened with the withdrawal of U.S. assistance, then according to Hills, Washington will try to intimidate kind of Moscow by threatening to increase federal military aid for a Kyiv regime and further intensify economical war against Russia. I don't know how reliable this report on Hills is. Maybe there are some insiders as a source in camp Trump, really. But in any case, if this is true, I don't think it will work, especially with Moscow, because I mean, whenever anybody try to harass Moscow or to force to do or not to do something, it did not play well for aggressor, right? For a hostile side, and therefore I hope a more pragmatic, more realistic approach will be chosen by Trump's administration. And if they really want to achieve peace, it's doable. It's definitely doable. All they need is to stop assisting Kyiv regime with their billions and billions of Western taxpayers' money and their weapons. And that's gonna be it. And the Russian side was very clear on that, isn't it? That without Western assistance, this conflict will end in just a couple of weeks' time. Although, even in Western assistance to the Kyiv regime, this conflict will end at this point, I guess, in maybe even in several months' time, because according to reports that we are receiving from the front lines, Kyiv regime's forces are really struggling, and basically in some places already collapsing, in other are on the verge of collapse. So therefore, I don't know how trustworthy this report from Hill can be, but I would like to see from new administration in US like more pragmatic approach, more realistic approach, because they're not gonna achieve nothing by speaking with Moscow with language of ultimatums. That's for sure. Anyways, hopefully sound is okay, because I'm now on Tverskaya Street, And as always, this street is quite busy and noisy. Also, dear friends, I still have a couple of more news. For example, Annalena Baerbock went to Kyiv today and promised additional assistance to Zelensky's regime to deal with the energy crisis, and also she spoke about some military aid for the Kyiv regime, especially in terms of air defense systems. I mean, Germany provided Kyiv regime with so many weapons, isn't it? From air defense systems to tanks. That it's the second biggest donor of the Kyiv regime after US when it comes to weapons and money. And as long as the society in Germany is okay with this, I'm afraid Berlin has no incentive to slow down or to think about true national interests of the Germany and German society. Also, and by the way, this information, I mean, all the actions of European politicians clearly shoots in statements of Lavrov that certain forces in US, in UK, are basically preparing continental Europe for to enter this suicidal aventure and I mean to enter in this proxy war directly. I hope it will not happen. I hope it will not happen, but unfortunately, majority of European states are client states of Washington and London, and their elites will do whatever they've been told. I guess so. I'm still optimistic that we're not gonna see no direct conflict between Russia and NATO member states, but who knows really? I cannot see future, isn't it? Also, a few more news, dear friends. According to TASS news agency, Hezbollah claimed today that they targeted the Meron Air Force Base of Israel and city of Safed. Dozens of rockets were launched in this direction. Significant number intercepted by IDF, although no precise information how many and what was the level of damage as a result of this strike, if any. And when it comes to Middle East, unfortunately, this crisis continues, escalates on daily basis, and now entire world is kind of waits for a possible Iranian retaliatory strike on Israel, which will most likely further intensify hostilities in the region. I watched today interview of one of the Iranian prominent figures, Professor, I forgot his name, but he was a guest on George Galloway's podcast, and he reiterated that Iran has a legit right to retaliate because it was attacked, and according to him, this time Iranian attack may be much more devastating for Israel than previous one, which was biggest attack that Israel experienced in last decades when it comes to these long-range precise strikes that were conducted. So unfortunately, peace is still not in sight when it comes to the Middle East. Also information that Russian and Indonesian navies have begun their first ever joint exercises, Oruda 2024, in Surabaya and Java Sea, referring referring the strong friendly ties between the two countries. Sailors and between the sailors and intensifying cooperation between their navies. Well, Moscow and Jakarta clearly are on a good terms. Relationships between the countries, so definitely getting better and better. And now we are seeing military exercises, navy exercises, which is just the beginning, I believe, because in my understanding, many nations in Oceania see Russia as a additional guarantor of their stability and peace, and maybe even as a mediator to connect with to resolve some issues with, for example, Beijing and number of countries in Oceania in Indo-Pacific region. Unfortunately, do have some issues with China that needs to be resolved, and they might see Russia as a country that can help with this because of the good relationships between Moscow and Beijing. And dear friends, also one more news, that Soyuz, Russian Soyuz launch vehicle, or space rocket basically, is to launch two Iranian satellites into orbit. So the Russian Soyuz launch vehicle will launch two Iranian satellites into orbit on November 5th. The Islamic Republic's ambassador to Moscow, Kazem Jalali, stated, according to him, in a continuation of the development of Iranian-Russian scientific and technological cooperation, two Iranian satellites, Kusar and Habhad, will be launched into 500-kilometer orbit on Tuesday at 2:48 Tehran time by the Soyuz launch vehicle. He wrote about it on his Twitter account, on Twitter, or formerly Twitter, X account. And well, good news. Cooperation between Russia and Iran is getting better and better as time goes by, and now we see cooperation in space, which is great. No specifications, by the way. According to some reports, these satellites are civilian project, but rumors will of course start circulate that these are military satellites. I don't know. I just don't know, but Russia and Iran are strategical partners, and it is makes sense. It does make sense that Russia is helping Iran when it's possible and needed. And this is it. For today's update. As you can see, dear friends, snow has melted away. But this morning everything was in snow, and just give it another week or two, and well, Moscow will become all white, covered in the snow. I don't know about you, but I truly love winter time. I love when it's snow everywhere. It just looks nice. So my weather, this is kind of my stuff. So yes, this is it, dear friends. I'm not sure I will share this update on a YouTube channel or Rumble channel tomorrow morning. As you know, I spoke about such possibility to share second updates. Maybe I will do it time to time, but I guess not this video. Although I don't know. Let's see. I will listen to it. Hopefully, video is okay. Sound is not bad. And then I will decide. I got permission from you to share these second updates on YouTube and Rumble, but you know, I still have some issues with this idea because this is exclusive content for our Patreon and Boosty community, and therefore I don't know what is the better way. And dear friends, I have to end this video now. Let me just show you some 360 view. In any case, I will check now if sound is good, if video is good. First of all, of course, I will publish video on our Patreon and Boosty, for our Patreon and Boosty community, and tomorrow morning, or only tomorrow morning, on YouTube. That's it. Thank you very much for your attention and support, dear friends. Have a wonderful day and take care.